Hidden deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, scattered across riverbeds and hillsides, lie 25 massive stone spheres, so perfectly shaped they seem almost impossible. Some weigh as much as 16 tons, carved with such precision that modern engineers still can't fully explain how ancient people created them. These aren't just rocks, they're one of archaeology's most baffling puzzles, left behind by a civilization that vanished without leaving behind a single written clue. Who made these mysterious spheres? How did they achieve such flawless symmetry without the tools we have today? And perhaps most haunting of all, why? Picture this: you're standing in the dense rainforest, sunlight filtering through the leaves as you run your hand over the smooth, cold surface of a sphere taller than you are. The air hums with the sounds of nature, but your mind races with questions. These stones weren't just placed here by chance. They were arranged, sometimes in straight lines, sometimes in geometric patterns, as if they were part of a grand design we've yet to decipher. Local legends say they're relics of a lost city of gold or even gifts from the gods. Scientists argue they could be ancient astronomical tools or territorial markers. But the truth, it's still buried in the shadows of time, waiting to be uncovered. This isn't just a story about stones. It's a gateway into a world where history and mystery collide, where every theory leads to more questions than answers. Were these spheres part of a sacred ritual, a forgotten language of shapes and alignment, or something even more extraordinary? As we journey deeper into the heart of this enigma, you'll discover why these silent, perfect orbs have captivated explorers, archaeologists, and treasure hunters for centuries. The answers might surprise you or pull you even deeper into the mystery. One thing's for certain: by the end of this exploration, you'll never look at a simple stone the same way again. The story of how these enigmatic stone spheres came to light reads like something out of an adventure novel. In the early 1930s, workers from the United Fruit Company were hacking through Costa Rica's dense jungle terrain, preparing the land for banana plantations. As they cleared away thick vegetation, their machetes struck something unexpected: not tree roots or rocks, but smooth, rounded surfaces buried in the earth. One by one, they uncovered these strange orbs, some half submerged in mud, others perched mysteriously in clusters. At first, the laborers dismissed them as odd natural formations or perhaps relics of some long-forgotten quarry. After all, who would carve such perfect spheres and leave them deep in the wilderness? But word spread, and soon these banana men began rolling the smaller spheres out of curiosity, even using them as exotic lawn ornaments outside their company offices. It wasn't until archaeologists caught wind of these discoveries that the truth began to emerge. Researchers like Doris Stone, daughter of a United Fruit executive, realized these weren't just random stones. The precision of their curves, their deliberate placements, and the sheer effort required to carve and move them pointed to something far more significant. By the late 1930s, teams were documenting these artifacts properly, stunned by their near-mathematical perfection. Some spheres measured within millimeters of true spherical shape, an astonishing feat for a civilization without modern tools. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is the mystery of what was lost in those early years. Workers, unaware of the sphere's importance, reportedly dynamited a few, hoping to find hidden gold inside. Others were damaged or displaced during land clearing, their original arrangements possibly holding vital clues forever scrambled. It's a sobering reminder of how easily history can slip through our fingers. Yet despite these losses, the surviving spheres whisper secrets of a sophisticated culture that mastered stonework in ways we're still struggling to comprehend. Every smooth surface, every strategic placement feels like a message from the past, one we're only beginning to decode. The stone spheres aren't scattered randomly across Costa Rica. They're concentrated in a specific area that holds the key to understanding their purpose. Most of these enigmatic artifacts are found in the lush, river-cut landscapes of the Diquís Delta, a region in the country's southern Pacific lowlands. This area, rich with archaeological treasures, was once the heartland of a sophisticated pre-Columbian culture. The spheres cluster near ancient settlements like Palma Sur, where they were often placed in alignment with plazas, pathways, or even burial sites. Their locations aren't accidental. They seem to mark spaces of significance as if they were part of a larger, intentional design, one that modern researchers are still piecing together. Take the site of Finca Sixayala, for example. Here, a group of spheres was arranged in a straight line leading toward the summit of a hill, almost like silent sentinels guiding the way. Another cluster near Batumble was positioned in a circular formation, echoing celestial patterns that might have held astronomical meaning. These placements suggest the spheres weren't just decorative. They were functional, perhaps serving as territorial markers, ceremonial objects, or even symbols of power. The Diquís Delta's fertile land and network of rivers would have made it a hub for trade and cultural exchange, and the spheres may have been central to that social and spiritual landscape. But here's the intriguing part: while many spheres were found near known archaeological sites, others were discovered in isolation, half buried in remote riverbanks or hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth. This uneven distribution raises questions. Were these lone spheres moved over time, or did they serve a different purpose altogether? Some researchers speculate they could have been waypoints guiding travelers through the dense terrain. Others believe their placement might reflect boundaries between ancient communities, like silent negotiators of territory. The geography of the Diquís Delta adds another layer to the mystery. The region's rivers, prone to seasonal flooding, may have shifted the spheres from their original positions over centuries, further obscuring their intended arrangement. Yet, even displaced, their presence tells a story of a culture that invested immense effort into shaping and transporting these stones, then carefully situating them where they'd be seen and perhaps revered. Every cluster, every solitary sphere, is a clue waiting to be read, a fragment of a language written not in words but in stone and earth. Standing face to face with one of these stone spheres, the first thing that strikes you is their staggering variety in size. The smallest could fit comfortably in your palm, some barely the size of a grapefruit, while the largest tower over humans, stretching more than 2 meters in diameter. The sheer range suggests these weren't one-size-fits-all objects. Each sphere may have served a distinct purpose based on its dimensions, but size isn't what makes them truly mind-bending. It's their shape. Run your hand along the surface of even the largest spheres, and you'll feel a curvature so flawless it defies belief. Archaeologists using laser scanning technology have found that many are precise within less than a centimeter of a perfect sphere, comparable to what modern machinery could produce today. That level of accuracy would be impressive under any circumstances, but here's the twist. The creators lacked metal tools, wheels, or even written language. They carved these masterpieces using nothing but stone hammers, chisels, and an unimaginable amount of patience. The material itself adds another layer to the mystery. Most spheres were crafted from gabbro, a hard volcanic rock similar to basalt, or from limestone deposits found along riverbeds. Picture teams of artisans painstakingly pecking away at boulders, gradually rounding them through trial and error, then polishing them with sand or leather until the surface gleamed. Some show signs of being heated and cooled repeatedly, a technique that may have made the stone easier to shape. But how did they maintain such symmetry without blueprints or measuring devices? One theory suggests they might have used suspended ropes or wooden frames as guides, marking the stone incrementally to ensure consistency. Even more perplexing is how they transported these colossal objects. The largest spheres weigh as much as 2 adult elephants, 16 tons of solid rock, yet they're often found miles from the nearest known quarry. Without draft animals or wheels, moving them would have required ingenious solutions, possibly rolling them on logs, floating them along rivers on rafts, or orchestrating communal efforts with ropes and ramps. Every groove-free surface indicates they were protected during transit, hinting at their immense cultural value. What's haunting is that we'll never know exactly how many spheres once existed. Erosion, human interference, and the passage of time have erased countless artifacts, but those that remain stand as silent monuments to a lost craftsmanship, a blend of artistry, engineering, and spiritual intent that modern science still can't fully replicate. Their perfection isn't just a technical marvel, it's a challenge across centuries, daring us to unravel how a civilization with so-called primitive tools achieved what seems impossible. The choice of rock for these enigmatic spheres is as deliberate as their shape. Gabbro, a dense volcanic stone with a coarse grain, was the preferred material for many of the largest and most perfectly formed orbs. Its durability made it ideal for withstanding centuries of jungle humidity and shifting river currents, but working with it would have demanded extraordinary effort. Imagine artisans using nothing but rounded river cobbles to methodically peck away at the unyielding surface, removing tiny fragments over months or even years. Limestone, softer and more abundant along riverbanks, appears in smaller spheres, its smoother surface lending itself to finer polishing. A few rare examples even use sandstone, its layered structure hinting at possible symbolic meaning, like geological books left open for the ages. Heat may have been the secret weapon in this ancient workshop. Evidence suggests some spheres were intentionally heated with fire, then rapidly cooled with water. This thermal shock would cause the outer layer of rock to fracture, making it easier to chip away excess material, a clever workaround for cultures without metal tools. Once roughed into a spherical shape, the real artistry began. Grinding stones and abrasive sands were likely used in a painstaking polishing process, turning jagged protospheres into objects of eerie smoothness. Some show traces of ochre or other pigments, hinting at possible ceremonial painting or decorative finishes lost to time. The silence surrounding their creation is as profound as the spheres themselves. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the temples of Mesopotamia, no carvings, no murals, no oral traditions directly explain their purpose or the methods behind their making. What little we know comes from reverse engineering, studying tool marks under microscopes, analyzing quarry sites, and recreating techniques with primitive tools. Even the indigenous Boruca and Taraba peoples, descendants of the Diquís culture, preserved only fragmented legends about the spheres being thunderstones or remnants of a forgotten cosmic event. This absence of records transforms each sphere into both an artifact and a riddle. Were the techniques so sacred they couldn't be shared, or so commonplace that no one thought to document them? Modern experiments reveal the staggering investment required. Using replica stone tools, archaeologists found creating even a small sphere required over a year of continuous labor. Larger ones would demand generations of knowledge transfer. Fathers teaching sons the precise angle to strike, mothers showing daughters how to test for symmetry with water levels or stretched cords. The absence of errors in surviving spheres suggests an almost ritualistic precision, where imperfect attempts might have been ritually destroyed or hidden. This wasn't casual craftsmanship, it was a cultural imperative baked into the identity of a people who left no written name but whose legacy endures in stone. Every smooth curve whispers of vanished classrooms where geometry was taught through touch, where patience was measured in lifetimes rather than hours. To the Diquís people, these stone spheres were far more than impressive feats of craftsmanship. They were likely woven into the very fabric of their society, carrying weight we can only begin to interpret. Flourishing between the years 700 and 1530, this sophisticated culture left behind more than just spheres. Intricate goldwork, ceremonial metates, and sprawling settlements hint at a society rich with ritual and hierarchy. The spheres fit into this puzzle like silent ambassadors of a lost worldview, their placement suggesting they played multiple roles: social, celestial, and sacred. Near sites like El Silencio, clusters of spheres align with ceremonial mounds and burial grounds, as if marking thresholds between the earthly and the divine. Some researchers propose they symbolized authority, with larger spheres serving as power statements for elite families or chieftains. Imagine a gathering where the size and placement of a sphere communicated status, its perfect form embodying the ruler's connection to cosmic order. Other theories point to their use in celestial navigation. At Grijalba II, a group of spheres mirrors the constellation Orion's belt during certain solstices, suggesting the Diquis tracked seasons or sacred dates through these stone markers. Spiritual significance runs deeper still. Indigenous oral traditions describe the spheres as Tara's tears, petrified droplets from a weeping sky god, or as anchors tethering the spirit world to earth. Their flawless shapes might have represented unity, infinity, or the cyclical nature of life, concepts central to many Mesoamerican belief systems. Excavations reveal some spheres buried upright, as if planted like seeds for rituals we can only guess at. Others were found near Metates used in hallucinogenic ceremonies, linking them to shamanic journeys or visions. What's most striking is how the spheres echo other Diquis artifacts. The same obsession with symmetry appears in their gold pendants and polished jade, while the alignment of spheres with plazas mirrors their urban planning's precision. Even their absence speaks volumes. No spheres have been found in ordinary homes, only in spaces that suggest communal or elite use. This wasn't random art, it was a language of stone where every curve and placement held meaning. The Diquis may have vanished, but their spheres endure as silent sermons in rock, whispering of a culture that measured power, time, and the divine in perfect, patient circles. Among the most compelling theories about the stone spheres is their potential role as astronomical tools, silent sentinels tracking the movements of the heavens. Picture standing in the Diquís Delta as the sun sets on the shortest day of the year, its fading light perfectly framed between two massive spheres placed centuries earlier. This isn't poetic imagination. At sites like Finca Sixiola, researchers have documented alignments where specific groupings of spheres correspond with solstices and equinoxes. One cluster points toward the exact spot where the sun rises during the December solstice, while another marks the summer solstice sunset with uncanny precision. These aren't random placements, they're deliberate, echoing the celestial obsessions of cultures like the Maya or the builders of Stonehenge, who also embedded cosmic knowledge into stone. Delve deeper and the astronomical connections multiply. At Grijalba II, 3 spheres form a straight line mirroring the belt stars of Orion, a constellation revered across ancient Mesoamerica as a symbol of cyclical time and agricultural cycles. Another arrangement near Palma Sur aligns with the bright star Sirius, whose heliacal rising signaled the onset of rainy seasons critical for crops. Even the sphere sizes might hold clues. Variations could represent the relative brightness of stars or lunar phases, turning landscapes into 3-dimensional star maps. Without written records, we can't know for certain, but the mathematical consistency of these alignments suggests a sophistication rivaling the Dresden Codex's astronomical tables. What's fascinating is how these theories intersect with indigenous knowledge. The Boruca people's oral histories describe the spheres as eyes of the sky watching over celestial events. Modern astronomers note that certain sphere clusters frame the path of Venus, a planet sacred to cultures from the Aztecs to the classic Maya. Even the sphere's polished surfaces might have served practical astronomical purposes. Their smooth curves could reflect moonlight or sunlight for nighttime observations or ritual illumination. Yet skeptics raise valid questions. If these were celestial markers, why aren't all spheres arranged astronomically? Some sit in isolation, far from any obvious alignment. Could they have had multiple purposes, sacred sites for some, territorial markers for others? The answer may lie in the Diquis worldview, where astronomy, spirituality, and daily life were inseparable. Imagine a shaman reading the stars' movements through sphere alignments to predict harvests, or communities gathering at these stone observatories for solstice ceremonies. The heavens weren't just watched, they were woven into the very ground with these perfect spheres as anchors between earth and sky. What remains undeniable is the intentionality behind their placement. Unlike naturally occurring boulders, these spheres were shaped and positioned at tremendous cost of labor, meaning their alignment with celestial events is unlikely to be coincidence. Whether as calendars, ritual markers, or cosmic mirrors, they reflect a culture that looked upward to navigate life below, encoding their understanding of time and space in stone. Every solstice sunrise that still filters between them today is a silent testament to that lost genius, a connection across centuries written not in ink but in shadow and light. Consider the sheer effort required to carve and transport a 16-ton stone sphere, an endeavor demanding hundreds of labor hours, specialized knowledge, and coordinated community effort. In a world without modern machinery, such an undertaking wasn't just impressive, it was a blatant display of power. This is why many researchers argue the spheres served as status symbols, their size and perfection broadcasting the influence of rulers or elite families. Imagine a visitor approaching a Diquís settlement, greeted by towering spheres flanking the entrance like silent guards. Their flawless surfaces and imposing scale would send an unmistakable message. The people who placed them here commanded respect, resources, and loyalty. The parallels to other ancient prestige objects are striking. Egypt's obelisks, for instance, weren't just monuments, they were political propaganda in stone, erected by pharaohs to proclaim their divinity and dominance. Similarly, the Moai statues of Easter Island symbolized ancestral authority, their size directly tied to the status of the clans who commissioned them. The Diquís spheres fit this pattern. Larger clusters near ceremonial centers like El Silencio suggest these were stages for public displays of power, where leaders could showcase their ability to marshal labor and artistry. A single massive sphere might represent a lifetime's work for an entire village, making its presence a permanent reminder of who held sway. But the spheres add a unique twist to this narrative. Unlike obelisks or statues, they lack carvings of rulers or gods. Their authority lies in their purity of form. This absence might be deliberate. Their perfection could have symbolized an idealized, almost divine order, with elites positioning themselves as intermediaries between that cosmic harmony and the earthly realm. Smaller spheres found near domestic sites might denote lesser officials or prosperous families, creating a visual hierarchy of stone. Even their material speaks to exclusivity. Gabbro, though durable, is notoriously difficult to work, making its use a flex of technical mastery. Yet status isn't just about intimidation, it's about connection. Some theorists propose the spheres were gifted between communities to forge alliances, their value measured in the labor invested rather than the material itself. A leader receiving such a sphere would gain not just an object but a tangible piece of another group's dedication, a diplomatic currency etched in rock. This dual role as both weapon and olive branch makes the spheres far more nuanced than simple trophies. They were social glue, their smooth surfaces reflecting not just sunlight, but the delicate balance of power in a world where stone spoke louder than words. The idea that these stone spheres served as sacred objects resonates deeply when you listen to the whispers of indigenous oral traditions. Among the Boruca people, elders speak of the spheres as Tara's eggs, cosmic seeds dropped from the heavens by a sky serpent who wept tears of stone. To the Teraba, they're called bribri, meaning round sacred things, and are said to contain the spirits of ancestors who guide the living during solstice ceremonies. These stories paint the spheres not as mere artifacts, but as vessels of the divine, objects bridging the human and spiritual worlds with their perfect, unbroken shapes. Imagine a ritual at dawn where sunlight first strikes a sphere placed at the center of a ceremonial plaza. its shadow stretches toward a cluster of smaller orbs, activating what priests might have seen as a sacred geometry. Some researchers suggest the largest spheres represented cosmic eggs, symbols of creation in many Mesoamerican cosmologies, while smaller ones could have served as altars or seats for shamans during vision quests. At sites like El Silencio, where spheres flank burial mounds, their placement hints at a funerary role, perhaps guardians guiding souls to the afterlife or markers of celestial rebirth. The Diquis may have believed these stones absorbed prayers, their smooth surfaces acting as conduits for messages to the gods. Even the act of creating the spheres might have been a spiritual practice. The painstaking process, pecking away imperfections, polishing for months, could have mirrored rituals of purification, where artisans became intermediaries between raw earth and sacred form. Modern indigenous carvers in Costa Rica describe similar meditative states when shaping stone today, hinting at a lineage of sacred craftsmanship. Some spheres show microscopic grooves consistent with repeated anointing with oils or blood, suggesting they were fed like living idols. Others bear faint traces of ochre, a pigment tied to rituals across the Americas. What's haunting is how these theories intersect with global patterns. From the moai of Rapa Nui to the lingams of India, cultures worldwide have shaped stone into sacred forms that channel the divine. The Diquis spheres fit this ancient grammar of worship, where perfection in form was a pathway to the infinite. Their silence isn't absence, it's an invitation to listen closer, to touch the cold surface and feel the echo of a prayer carved in stone centuries ago. Whether as cosmic eggs, spirit houses, or altars, their true power may lie in the questions they still ignite in those who stand before them. Of course, no mystery this captivating would be complete without whispers of otherworldly origins. The stone spheres' near-perfect geometry has fueled speculation that they might be relics of alien technology, artifacts left behind by visitors from the stars who shared advanced knowledge with ancient cultures. Popular shows and books have latched onto this idea, pointing to the sphere's precision as evidence of tools or techniques beyond human capability. Some even suggest they were navigation markers for spacecraft or energy conduits in a global alien network. It's a thrilling narrative, one that taps into our fascination with the unexplained. But let's weigh this against the facts. While the spheres are astonishing achievements, every feature attributed to alien engineering can be replicated using known indigenous methods. Experimental archaeologists have demonstrated how heating, pecking, and grinding techniques combined with simple measuring tools like hanging cords could produce these shapes through painstaking effort. The absence of any extraterrestrial materials or anomalous tool marks further weakens the alien hypothesis. As for their arrangement, celestial alignments are impressive, but they mirror patterns found in other ancient cultures that studied the skies without outside help. The lost civilization theory isn't far behind in popularity. Some propose the spheres are remnants of an advanced society, perhaps survivors of Atlantis or a forgotten precursor culture, who possessed technology later lost to time. Yet archaeological layers tell a different story. The spheres consistently appear in strata linked to the Diquis era, with no older artifacts suggesting a more sophisticated predecessor. Soil analysis and tool fragments found near quarry sites all point to local, incremental innovation rather than inherited knowledge from a mythical super-civilization. What these fringe theories reveal isn't ancient secrets but something equally human, our tendency to underestimate past societies. The Diquis didn't need aliens or Atlanteans to explain their brilliance. Their achievement stands as a testament to patience, communal effort, and a deep understanding of their environment qualities we're still learning to fully appreciate. The real wonder isn't that the spheres might be extraterrestrial, but that they're unmistakably, beautifully human. Their mystery isn't in how they were made, but why they mattered so much to the hands that shaped them. In 2014, UNESCO recognized the global significance of Costa Rica's stone spheres by adding 4 archaeological sites to its World Heritage List. This designation, reserved for places of outstanding cultural or natural importance, placed the Diquís Delta's mysterious orbs alongside treasures like the pyramids of Giza and Machu Picchu. The protected sites Batumbal, El Silencio, Finca Sixayola, and Grijalba II were chosen not just for their iconic spheres, but for how these artifacts intertwine with the landscapes around them. At Batumbal, spheres rest atop artificial mounds overlooking ancient settlements, while El Silencio boasts the largest known sphere at over 2.5 meters in diameter, standing sentinel near a pre-Columbian cemetery. These aren't isolated relics, they're pieces of a living cultural mosaic, revealing how the Diquis people shaped their environment with intention. The UNESCO listing came not a moment too soon. For decades, these sites faced threats from agriculture, looting, and even well-meaning but misguided relocation attempts. Spheres were hauled away to adorn government buildings or private gardens, severed from their original contexts and with them vital clues to their purpose. Now, under UNESCO protection, they're monitored by conservationists who use everything from drone surveys to soil moisture sensors to prevent erosion and vandalism. Local communities, trained as heritage guardians, play a key role in these efforts, blending modern science with indigenous knowledge. At Finca Sixayola, for example, elders from the Boruca Nation advised archaeologists on traditional land use practices that help stabilize the sphere's surroundings, proving preservation isn't just about technology, it's about respecting continuity. But protection isn't merely physical, it's also about reclaiming narratives. The UNESCO designation has spurred efforts to reintegrate the spheres into Costa Rica's cultural identity. Museums now display them not as curiosities, but as masterworks of indigenous engineering, accompanied by interactive exhibits that showcase the Diquis' astronomical and artistic sophistication. Schools teach children about the sphere's history, ensuring future generations see them as more than tourist attractions. Even the tourism itself has transformed. Guided walks through heritage sites emphasize quiet contemplation over photo ops, with visitors encouraged to ponder the hands that carved these stones centuries ago. Challenges persist, of course. Climate change brings heavier rains to the Diquís Delta, threatening to destabilize spheres nestled in riverbanks. Balancing access for researchers and visitors with the need to minimize human impact requires constant negotiation. Yet the UNESCO status has given these efforts teeth, leveraging international support and funding. What's most powerful is how the listing honors not just the spheres themselves, but the culture that birthed them. These silent stone witnesses, once on the brink of being forgotten, now stand as proud emissaries of a legacy that continues to unfold, one perfect curve at a time. The true cost of the stone sphere's rediscovery becomes painfully clear when you realize how many were lost or destroyed in the decades after they were first uncovered. Workers clearing land for banana plantations, unaware of the artifact's significance, routinely blasted them with dynamite, some hoping to find hidden treasure inside, others simply removing obstacles to agriculture. One infamous account describes laborers splitting a massive sphere in two with explosives, only to find solid rock within. Another tells of a foreman who rolled a smaller sphere into a river for amusement, watching it vanish into the muddy waters. Even well-intentioned actions caused harm. Farmers occasionally unearthed spheres and relocated them as quirky lawn ornaments, severing their connection to archaeological contexts that might have revealed their purpose. The scale of loss is staggering. While 25 spheres now enjoy protected status, researchers estimate that at least twice that number were destroyed or displaced during the mid-20th century. At sites like Palma Sur, archival photos show clusters of spheres in the 1940s that no longer exist. Their fragments likely repurposed as construction material or ground into gravel. Some were smuggled abroad. Records indicate at least 8 spheres ended up in private collections from Miami to Zurich, where they were displayed as exotic conversation pieces. One particularly egregious case involved a Hollywood actor who allegedly transported a sphere to his Malibu estate in the 1960s, embedding it in his garden as a pre-Columbian art installation. The most heartbreaking losses aren't just the spheres themselves, but the knowledge they might have held. Many were arranged in precise formations, straight lines, circles, or even triangular patterns before being scattered by bulldozers or looters. At a site now called Loma Corozal, archaeologists found only the hollow impressions where spheres once sat, their original alignment forever erased. Even today, agricultural workers occasionally stumble upon fragments. A curved section here, a polished quarter sphere there, like pages torn from a history book no one can fully read. Efforts to recover lost spheres have yielded both hope and frustration. In 2011, a sphere seized from a Costa Rican diplomat's private collection was repatriated after decades abroad, its surface still bearing tool marks from its creators. Yet others remain missing, their whereabouts known only through grainy auction catalogs or rumors. The tragedy isn't just in their absence, but in the silent stories they took with them. Every dynamited sphere a potential Rosetta Stone for understanding the Diquis world. These gaps in the archaeological record serve as a sobering reminder. Sometimes the greatest mystery isn't what survives, but what we'll never get back. The mid-20th century marked a turning point for understanding Costa Rica's stone spheres, thanks to the meticulous work of archaeologist Samuel Lothrop. In the 1940s, funded by the Peabody Museum, Lothrop and his team embarked on the first systematic study of these enigmatic artifacts. Armed with little more than measuring tapes, sketches, and relentless curiosity, they documented over 50 spheres across the Diquís Delta, many now lost or destroyed. Lothrop's sketches reveal astonishing details: the way some spheres rested on stone platforms, how others were arranged in geometric patterns aligned with cardinal directions, and the faint tool marks still visible on their surfaces. His observations shattered early assumptions that the spheres were natural formations or colonial-era oddities, proving they were pre-Columbian masterpieces. Yet for all his thoroughness, Lothrop left behind a frustrating silence. His notes speculate about their purpose. Could they be astronomical markers, status symbols, but conclude with a resigned admission: we may never know. Decades later, technology began filling gaps Lothrop couldn't. In the 21st century, archaeologists turned to LiDAR, a laser-based imaging system that peels back layers of jungle canopy to reveal hidden landscapes. What they found stunned researchers. Beneath the dense vegetation, LiDAR uncovered previously unknown spheres, some submerged in swamps or buried under centuries of sediment. At a site near Sierp, scans detected a cluster arranged in a perfect isosceles triangle, their alignment invisible to ground observers. Another survey revealed a solitary sphere positioned precisely at the center of an ancient plaza, suggesting ceremonial significance. These discoveries didn't just add to the count, they transformed understanding of how extensively the Diquis shaped their environment. The LiDAR maps showed spheres weren't isolated oddities, but nodes in a vast cultural network, connected by causeways and terraces that hint at a society far more organized than previously assumed. Yet every answer births new questions. Modern studies using X-ray fluorescence and 3D modeling reveal puzzling inconsistencies. Some spheres contain mineral signatures traceable to quarries over 50 kilometers away, while others were carved from local stone. Why the disparity? Were certain materials reserved for elite sites? Microscopic analysis exposes another riddle. A few spheres show traces of hematite, a mineral with magnetic properties concentrated at precise points. Could these have served as ancient compasses or ritual objects? Even the tools defy expectations. At a quarry near Sur, researchers found hammerstones with unusual wear patterns, suggesting the Diquis developed specialized techniques lost to time. The biggest mystery remains the absence of any written or oral record detailing the sphere's creation or purpose. Recent collaborations with indigenous communities have uncovered tantalizing fragments, Boruca elders speaking of stone teachers who guided celestial rituals, but these are whispers against the silence. Archaeologists now face a race against climate change, as rising temperatures and intensified rainfall threaten to erode unprotected sites. What's clear is that these spheres refuse to surrender all their secrets. Each technological leap, from Lothrop's pencil sketches to Lydia's laser pulses, brings us closer to understanding, only to reveal how much more lies hidden under the jungle's green veil. The stones endure as both witnesses and puzzles, their smooth surfaces reflecting not just sunlight but the limits of our knowledge. Among the dozens of stone spheres scattered across Costa Rica, one stands apart, not just in size but in the sheer audacity of its creation. Known as El Silencio, this colossal orb measures 2.5 meters in diameter, taller than most humans, and weighs a staggering 16 tons, roughly equivalent to 3 adult elephants. Discovered in the dense jungles of Sur, it remains the largest intact sphere ever documented, a monument to the Diquis people's mastery over stone. When archaeologists first uncovered it in the 1930s, partially submerged in mud and tangled roots, the realization struck hard. Moving this behemoth would have been an engineering feat even by today's standards. The challenge begins with the material itself. Carved from gabbro, a volcanic rock denser than granite, El Silencio's surface shows the same flawless curvature found on smaller spheres, except scaled to a magnitude that defies belief. Transporting it from the nearest known quarry would have required moving it over 20 kilometers through swampy terrain, across rivers, and up inclines, all without wheels, pulleys, or draft animals. Modern experiments offer clues. Teams using replica wooden rollers and rope systems found that shifting a 1-ton sphere demanded the coordinated effort of 30 people for an entire week. Scaling that up to 16 tons, the math becomes staggering, possibly requiring hundreds of laborers working in shifts, with logs constantly repositioned under the sphere as it inched forward. One misstep and the stone could crush limbs or vanish into soft earth. Even more intriguing is where El Silencio was placed. Unlike smaller spheres often arranged in groups, this giant stands alone near a burial mound at the edge of a ceremonial complex, its base slightly sunken into a prepared platform. This isolation suggests singular importance, perhaps a marker for a revered leader, a focal point for communal rituals, or even a boundary stone for sacred ground. Local legends hint at its role as a gatekeeper, its imposing presence warding off malevolent spirits. The name El Silencio itself, given by archaeologists, feels eerily fitting. The sphere exudes a quiet power, as if holding secrets too vast to speak aloud. Today, protected under UNESCO watch, the sphere rests where it was found, its surface still bearing the faintest scars of the tools that shaped it. To stand beside it is to feel the weight of history, not just in its physical mass, but in the unanswered questions it represents. How many lifetimes were spent carving and polishing it? What songs or prayers accompanied its journey to this resting place? The logistics of its creation boggle the mind, but the deeper mystery lingers in the silence between its curves, a testament to a civilization that could move mountains, yet left no words to tell us why. Among the many stone spheres discovered in Costa Rica, one stands out as a masterpiece of precision, the near-perfect orb known as La Perfecta. Measuring just over 1 meter in diameter, this sphere's surface is so flawlessly curved that when scanned with modern laser technology, it deviates from a true sphere by less than 5 millimeters. That's closer to mathematical perfection than many machine-made objects today. How did artisans achieve such precision without calipers, lasers, or even metal tools? The answer lies in a combination of painstaking technique and generations of accumulated knowledge. Close examination of La Perfecta's surface reveals faint striations, microscopic grooves left by pecking stones and abrasive sands. Archaeologists believe the shaping process began with heating the gabbro boulder, making it easier to chip away large fragments. Then, using harder river cobbles as hammers, craftsmen would have worked inch by inch, rotating the stone constantly to maintain symmetry. The real genius, however, may have been in their measurement methods. Some researchers propose they used water levels filling carved channels around the sphere's circumference to check for deviations. Others suggest suspended cords or wooden templates helped guide their strikes, ensuring no single area was overworked. Polishing was where true artistry emerged. After rough shaping, artisans likely switched to finer tools, perhaps bamboo splinters or leather pads loaded with abrasive quartz sand. Days turned into weeks of grinding, with each pass removing imperfections until the surface achieved its eerie smoothness. What's remarkable is that La Perfecta shows no signs of later damage or erosion. Its condition suggests it was either ritually protected or placed in a sheltered location soon after completion. The sphere's discovery site adds another layer to its mystique. Unearthed near an ancient plaza in Palma, it was found alongside smaller, less perfect spheres, as if serving as a master template or demonstration piece. Tool marks on nearby stones match the unique wear patterns on La Perfecta, hinting at a possible workshop area where apprentices learned under master carvers. This wasn't just functional craftsmanship, it was a tradition passed down with near-religious reverence for precision. Modern experiments underscore the skill involved. Using replica tools, a team from the University of Costa Rica attempted to recreate a sphere of similar size and material. Even with modern understanding of geometry, their best effort took 8 months of continuous work and still fell short of La Perfecta's precision. The original artisans likely worked under even harder conditions, yet somehow produced a stone so perfect it challenges our assumptions about primitive technology. Every curve on La Perfecta whispers a silent dare across centuries: decode our methods if you can. What makes this sphere truly humbling isn't just its shape, but the cultural values it embodies. In a world without written records, the Diquis left their philosophy etched in stone, a belief that perfection mattered, that the infinite could be captured in a single, flawless curve. La Perfecta isn't just an artifact, it's a manifesto in gabbro, declaring that patience and skill could bridge the gap between Earth and cosmos. To touch its cold surface today is to feel the ghost of an artisan's hand, still guiding ours toward understanding. Among the many stone spheres documented in Costa Rica, one stands apart in whispered legends: the so-called jade sphere. Unlike its gabbro and limestone counterparts, this rumored artifact was said to be carved from deep green jade, a material sacred across Mesoamerican cultures but rarely found in the Diquis region. Accounts of its existence first surfaced in the 1950s when a banana plantation worker allegedly uncovered it near the Taroba River. Described as smaller than most spheres, roughly the size of a watermelon, but with an otherworldly luster, it reportedly vanished within days of discovery. Some claim it was smuggled out of the country by a collector. Others insist it was reburied to protect it from looters. To this day, no photographs or official records confirm its existence, leaving archaeologists divided. Was it a genuine artifact or merely a tall tale born from the misty collision of greed and folklore? The possibility of a jade sphere rewrites what we know about the Diquis people's craftsmanship. Jade, harder than steel, would have required even more sophisticated tools and techniques to shape than gabbro. In neighboring cultures like the Olmec and Maya, jade symbolized life, fertility, and divine power reserved for elite rituals and royal adornments. If the Diquis worked with jade, it suggests either far-reaching trade networks or access to undiscovered local sources. More intriguingly, a jade sphere's purpose might have differed entirely from its stone siblings. Where gabbro spheres were often placed in public spaces, a jade counterpart could have been a portable sacred object, perhaps used in ceremonies or even as a diplomatic gift between rulers. Its smaller size supports this theory, easy to transport but impossibly valuable, a concentrated symbol of authority. The mystery deepens when examining indigenous oral histories. Elders from the Boruca and Kabekar peoples speak of a green star stone that fell from the sky, granting visions to shamans who touched it. These stories, passed down long before the modern jade sphere rumors emerged, describe an object eerily similar to the lost artifact. Could this be the same sphere, its true origins cloaked in myth? Or did the legend inspire later generations to imagine or even fabricate a jade original? Despite decades of searching, no verified jade sphere has surfaced in museums or private collections. Some researchers argue its absence speaks volumes. If such a treasure existed, why hasn't it appeared on the black market or in auction houses? Skeptics propose the original witness might have mistaken a highly polished serpentine stone, a softer mineral with similar coloration, for jade. Others suggest it was a colonial-era carving, perhaps a Spanish priest's attempt to blend indigenous symbolism with Christian iconography. Yet the dream of the jade sphere persists, fueled by tantalizing fragments. In 2009, a team scanning riverbanks with ground-penetrating radar detected an anomalous round object buried near Palma Norte. Dense enough to be jade but too deep to excavate without risking damage, it remains untouched, a silent tease beneath the earth. Whether real or imagined, the legend endures as a testament to how these ancient stones still spark our imagination. Some truths, it seems, are content to stay hidden, wrapped in layers of jungle and time. To the indigenous communities of Costa Rica, the stone spheres are far more than archaeological curiosities. They're woven into the fabric of their oral traditions, carrying stories that stretch back generations. Among the Boruca people, one persistent legend claims the spheres were thunderstones, hurled from the heavens by Tara, the god of the skies, during battles with earthly demons. These orbs, they say, still hold the echoes of divine lightning within their smooth surfaces. Another tale tells of the spheres as eggs laid by a celestial serpent, each containing the soul of a future shaman waiting to hatch. Such myths transform these stones from inert objects into living vessels of cosmic power, their perfect shapes seen as proof of otherworldly origins. Contrast these vibrant narratives with the Taraba people's belief that the spheres are petrified fruits from the tree of life, scattered when the world was young. Elders speak of a time when the stones glowed with inner light, serving as beacons for ancestral spirits during sacred ceremonies. Some even whisper of spheres that could roll on their own at midnight, guided by unseen hands to reveal hidden springs or bury themselves to escape thieves. These stories, passed down through fireside tellings, reflect a worldview where the natural and supernatural blur, where stones breathe and gods walk the earth. Archaeologists, however, offer a different lens. While respecting these traditions, they note how myths often encode practical truths. The Thunderstone legend, for example, might preserve ancestral memory of volcanic activity. Gabbro, the sphere's primary material, is igneous rock born from fire. The rolling stones motif could symbolize the very real efforts of ancient communities to transport these heavy objects across treacherous terrain. Even the idea of glowing spheres finds a possible root in fact. Some orbs, when wet, gleam eerily under moonlight, their polished surfaces catching and refracting light in ways that might inspire supernatural explanations. The most tantalizing intersection of myth and science involves treasure tales. For decades, rumors persisted that certain spheres concealed golden cores, a belief that led to the destruction of many artifacts by treasure hunters. Modern scans have debunked this. X-rays reveal only solid stone. Yet here, too, legend may hold a kernel of history. The Diquís culture was renowned for gold work, and some spheres have been found near burial sites containing gold ornaments. It's possible the hidden treasure stories conflate two distinct cultural treasures, literal gold and the symbolic value of the spheres themselves. What emerges is a dialogue between ways of knowing. Where science sees quarry marks and labor hours, oral traditions glimpse divine hands. Both perspectives enrich our understanding. The myths keep alive the awe these stones inspired, while archaeology grounds that wonder in human achievement. Perhaps the deepest truth lies in the balance that the spheres are at once masterpieces of engineering and vessels of mystery, their meaning as layered as the rock from which they were carved. To stand before one today is to stand at the crossroads of story and scholarship, where every smooth curve invites both measurement and marvel. Costa Rica's stone spheres aren't alone in the world. Other cultures and natural processes have produced similar-looking orbs, but none share their precise craftsmanship or mysterious intent. Take New Zealand's Moeraki boulders, for example. These massive spherical stones dot Coco Beach like abandoned cannonballs from a giant's battle. At first glance, they might seem like cousins to the Diquis creations, but there's a crucial difference. The Moeraki boulders are entirely natural, formed over millions of years. Their concretions, minerals accumulating around a core in sediment, slowly hardening into perfect spheres through geologic patience. Waves eventually eroded the softer surrounding rock, leaving these natural wonders exposed. While breathtaking, they lack the human touch, the deliberate symmetry that makes Costa Rica's spheres so unnervingly precise. Then there's Bosnia's so-called ancient spheres, which sparked controversy in the early 2000s. Discovered near the town of Zavodovicai, these rounded stones were initially hailed as evidence of a lost European civilization. Some even claimed they were the world's oldest man-made spheres, allegedly dating back 15,000 years. But scientific scrutiny revealed a more mundane truth. Like the Moeraki boulders, they're likely natural formations, shaped by mineral deposition and erosion. What sets Costa Rica's spheres apart is the undeniable evidence of human intervention, tool marks, strategic placements, and a consistency in form that nature rarely achieves without help. Venture to Mexico's Jalisco region, and you'll find the Esferas de Ahualulco, smaller stone spheres associated with the Tuchitlan tradition. These share a closer kinship with Costa Rica's orbs, showing clear signs of human carving and alignment with ceremonial sites. Yet even here, the craftsmanship differs. The Ahualulco spheres are rougher, often asymmetrical, and rarely exceed half a meter in diameter. They lack the mathematical precision of the Diquis creations, suggesting either a different cultural priority or perhaps a less centralized knowledge of stoneworking techniques. Perhaps the most striking comparison lies in the artistry of Scotland's carved stone balls dating back to the Neolithic era. These palm-sized artifacts, like the famous Towie ball, feature intricate spiral patterns and knobs, a stark contrast to Costa Rica's smooth simplicity. While both were clearly products of skilled artisans, their purposes seem worlds apart. The Scottish balls may have been weapons, ritual objects, or even early forms of currency, but their complexity lies in decoration rather than geometric purity. What emerges from these global comparisons is the Diquis sphere's singular nature. They stand at the crossroads of art, astronomy, and engineering objects that served a purpose so vital. An entire civilization invested generations of labor to perfect them. Other cultures carved stones for war or worship, but only in Costa Rica did they chase perfection itself, as if the act of creating flawless spheres was the point all along. Every smooth surface, every strategic alignment, whispers of a culture that saw the infinite in a circle and dared to carve it into the earth. Moving massive stone spheres across miles of rugged jungle terrain without wheels or pack animals seems impossible at first glance, yet the Diquis people accomplished this feat with nothing but ingenuity and manpower. The logistics behind transporting spheres weighing up to 16 tons, equivalent to 3 pickup trucks, would have required careful planning and communal effort. One plausible method involves log rollers, a technique documented in other ancient cultures. Teams would have felled sturdy hardwood trees, stripped their bark, and laid them perpendicular to the desired path. As the sphere was levered onto the first set of logs, workers behind it would continuously relocate the rolling track, creating an endless conveyor of shifting timber. Experiments by archaeologists using replica spheres show this method could move 1 ton per every 10 laborers, meaning moving El Silencio, the largest known sphere, might have demanded over 100 people coordinating in unison. The absence of grooves or scratches on most spheres supports this theory. The smooth surfaces suggest they were shielded from direct ground contact during transit. River transport offers another compelling explanation, especially for spheres found near waterways like the Taroba River. The Diquis could have lashed spheres to sturdy balsa wood rafts, using the current to carry them downstream. This method would explain how gabbro spheres quarried from the Talamanca foothills appeared dozens of kilometers away in coastal sites, a distance nearly impossible to cover overland with heavy loads. Flotation tests with replica rafts prove even massive stones remain buoyant when securely tied, and river transport would have drastically reduced the human effort required. Some spheres discovered near ancient riverbanks show subtle erosion patterns consistent with prolonged water exposure, as if they were temporarily moored or stored near landing points before final placement. Yet the most ingenious solution might involve a combination of techniques. For overland stretches between rivers, the Diquis could have constructed temporary earthen ramps, reducing the angle of ascent or descent. Rope systems woven from durable vines or agave fibers might have allowed teams to control the sphere's momentum downhill or to pivot it around obstacles. Indigenous oral histories hint at singing stones that walked when pulled by chanting crews, suggesting rhythmic teamwork to synchronize pulls and rests. Modern engineers note that dampening the log rollers with water or plant sap would reduce friction, making the load glide more easily. The real marvel isn't just the physical act of moving these stones, but the social organization it implies. Coordinating hundreds of laborers, managing supplies of logs and ropes, and navigating unpredictable terrain required leadership, communication, and shared purpose. Each transported sphere became a testament to communal achievement, a tangible symbol of what a society could accomplish when united by a vision greater than any individual. The absence of wheel ruts or animal bones near quarry sites confirms this was a distinctly human triumph, one that whispers across centuries not just of engineering prowess but of collective will. Every smooth curve that survived the journey stands as a monument to patience, a language of stone spoken in the quiet persistence of hands and logs and river currents. The precision of Costa Rica's stone spheres becomes even more astonishing when you consider the tools available to their creators, or rather, the lack of them. Without protractors, lasers, or even basic metal implements, the Diquis people achieved curves so exact that modern scanners struggle to find flaws. How did they do it? One compelling theory points to simple yet brilliant string guides. Picture artisans stretching fiber cords from a central pivot point, using the fixed length as a radius to check every inch of the stone's surface. Any deviation would stand out against the taut line, allowing carvers to chip away imperfections methodically. Experiments with replica tools show this technique can produce near-perfect spheres, but it demands relentless attention, each adjustment requiring the cord to be repositioned and the stone rotated anew. The faint grooves found on some unfinished spheres support this idea, as if marking where strings once brushed against the rock. Water levels offer another fascinating possibility. By carving shallow channels around a sphere's circumference and filling them with liquid, craftsmen could have detected high or low points, the water pooling unevenly where the stone dipped or bulged. This method, still used by stonemasons today, would explain the consistent symmetry across spheres of different sizes. Some archaeologists even suggest the Diquis might have floated half-carved spheres in ponds, watching how they rotated to identify imbalances. The smoothest spheres, like La Perfecta, show no tool marks at their equators, hinting at a final polishing phase where water played a key role. Then there's the puzzle of scale. Smaller spheres could be turned by hand, but the massive ones, weighing tons, would have required innovative solutions. One radical theory proposes they were shaped in place, the raw boulders heated and cooled to fracture layers before being pecked into form. Charcoal remnants near quarry sites lend credence to this idea, as do the sphere's occasional magnetic anomalies which might reflect localized heating. Others argue for wooden scaffolds or sandbag supports that allowed artisans to work on elevated sections without straining. The truth likely combined multiple techniques, refined over generations into an unrecorded science of stone. What's undeniable is the intentionality behind every curve. These weren't rough approximations, they were ideals made tangible. In a world before written standards, the spheres themselves may have served as their own benchmarks, masterpieces copied by apprentices until muscle memory eclipsed measurement. Their perfection wasn't just technical, it was cultural, a silent testament to a society that revered precision as sacred. To touch one today is to feel the ghost of an artisan's hand, still guiding the way across centuries. Not all stone spheres in Costa Rica are ancient, some are clever forgeries, muddying the waters of genuine archaeological research. In the late 20th century, as tourism boomed, opportunistic locals began crafting fake spheres to sell as authentic artifacts. These modern imitations often ended up in private collections or even museums before experts spotted inconsistencies. The telltale signs, fresh tool marks hidden under artificial staining, symmetrical perfection achieved with power tools, and materials inconsistent with known Diquis quarries. One notorious case involved a hotel owner in the 1980s who commissioned a dozen fake spheres to decorate his property, passing them off as newly discovered originals. When archaeologists examined them, they found traces of metal chisels and sandblasting technologies the Diquis never possessed. Sensationalized theories have further clouded the sphere's true history. The most persistent myth links them to Atlantis, popularized by fringe authors who claimed the spheres were navigation markers left by the lost civilization. Proponents point to their geometric precision as proof of advanced Atlantean technology. Scholars have repeatedly debunked this notion. No evidence connects the Diquis to Atlantis, and the sphere's carbon-dated contexts place them firmly within known pre-Columbian timelines. Another wild theory suggests the spheres were ancient batteries or energy devices, fueled by dubious claims about their mineral composition. X-ray scans reveal nothing but solid rock, yet these stories persist in documentaries and online forums, often overshadowing legitimate research. Even well-intentioned misunderstandings have caused harm. In the 1990s, a team of amateur archaeologists misidentified a cluster of naturally rounded river stones as Diquis spheres, publishing a report that confused academic circles for years. Geological analysis later confirmed the stones were shaped by water erosion, not human hands. Such cases highlight the delicate balance between public fascination and scientific rigor, the allure of mystery sometimes outpacing the patience required for careful study. The most damaging hoaxes involve deliberate fraud. In 2014, authorities intercepted a shipment of purported ancient spheres bound for an auction house in Europe. Forensic examination revealed they'd been carved just months earlier using diamond-tipped saws, then artificially aged with acid to mimic centuries of weathering. Forgers often target collectors who prize size over authenticity, crafting oversized spheres that never existed in the Diquis era. Genuine spheres rarely exceed 2 meters in diameter, yet fakes frequently appear at 3 meters or more, a red flag experts now watch for. Despite these challenges, scientific tools are sharpening the line between fact and fiction. Petrographic analysis can trace a stone's mineral fingerprint to specific quarries, while 3D imaging detects subtle tool marks invisible to the naked eye. Perhaps the greatest defense against hoaxes is education, teaching locals and tourists alike to appreciate the real spheres not as mystical objects, but as masterpieces of human ingenuity. The truth, it turns out, is more impressive than any fabricated legend. These stones don't need alien architects or lost civilizations to inspire awe. Their real story of a culture that shaped the earth with nothing but patience and skill is wonder enough. Today, the stone spheres of Costa Rica have transcended their ancient origins to become a powerful national symbol, appearing everywhere from banknotes to postage stamps. The 5,000 colons bill features an intricately detailed engraving of the spheres, their smooth curves contrasting with the portrait of Alfredo González Flores, a former president. This isn't just decoration, it's a statement. By placing these enigmatic artifacts alongside modern leaders, Costa Rica declares its deep connection to a pre-Columbian past, asserting cultural continuity across centuries. Even the country's tourism board leans into the mystique, using the spheres in promotional campaigns with taglines like Costa Rica, where mysteries are carved in stone. Hotels, airports, and public plazas often display replicas, welcoming visitors with silent ambassadors of national pride. The sphere's journey from jungle relics to cultural icons wasn't automatic. In the mid-20th century, they were largely seen as curiosities, odd remnants with little relevance to modern identity. That shifted in the 1970s, when historians and artists began reclaiming them as unifying symbols. Unlike divisive colonial monuments, the spheres belonged solely to Costa Rica, untouched by European influence. Their neutrality made them perfect emblems for a nation proud of its indigenous heritage but wary of glorifying any single group. Schools incorporated them into history lessons, and artisans wove their shapes into textiles and pottery. By the time UNESCO granted World Heritage status, the spheres had already become shorthand for Costa Rican ingenuity, proof that a small country could produce wonders recognized globally. But their symbolic weight goes deeper than aesthetics. In a nation without a standing army since 1948, the spheres represent a different kind of strength, patience, craftsmanship, and harmony with nature. Costa Ricans often contrast them with the militaristic monuments of neighboring countries where statues commemorate conquerors. Their spheres celebrate collective achievement. Environmentalists, too, have adopted them as icons of sustainability, noting how the Diquís people shaped stone without exploiting the land destructively. Even football fans chant about La Esfera Perfecta during matches, turning ancient precision into a metaphor for national excellence. Yet the spheres also spark debate. Some indigenous groups argue their commercialization risks reducing sacred objects to kitsch, their spiritual significance lost in souvenir shops selling sphere-shaped keychains. Others counter that visibility ensures preservation, funding digs and education. This tension mirrors global struggles over cultural heritage, how to honor the past without freezing it behind glass. One thing's certain, whether as symbols of unity, mystery, or resilience, these stones have rolled far beyond their original purpose. They're no longer just relics of the Diquís. They've become mirrors reflecting how Costa Rica sees itself and how the world sees Costa Rica. Every polished curve now carries dual meanings, the whispers of an ancient people and the pride of a modern nation. The stone spheres of Costa Rica have rolled far beyond their jungle origins, landing squarely in the heart of global pop culture. Hollywood blockbusters like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull couldn't resist their magnetic allure, though the film swapped Gabbro for a more cinematic crystal. The iconic opening scene's towering sphere pays direct homage to El Silencio. Video games followed suit. The Tomb Raider franchise tucked sphere-inspired puzzles into its lush digital jungles, while Uncharted 4 wove them into a storyline about pirate treasure, their smooth surfaces glinting on screens worldwide. Even Assassin's Creed, known for historical deep cuts, included a side quest where players uncover a sphere's alien origins, a wink to the wilder theories surrounding these artifacts. Television has amplified the mystery. Ancient Aliens dedicated an entire episode to the spheres, framing them as evidence of extraterrestrial contact, while Expedition Unknown sent host Josh Gates scrambling through Costa Rican rivers to measure their precision. The sphere's cameos aren't confined to adventure genres. In The X-Files, Mulder and Scully once debated their purpose over a grainy photo, their dialogue towing the line between science and sci-fi. Even children's media got in on the act. Dora the Explorer featured a fictional, lost city of spheres, turning archaeology into a playground for young imaginations. Literature, too, has spun tales around these stone enigmas. Clive Cussler's Inca Gold reimagined them as markers for a sunken treasure fleet, while science fiction like Sphere, No Relation, borrowed their aesthetic for an alien artifact storyline. Travel memoirs and history books, from the Archaeology of Southern Central America to 1491, New Revelations of the Americas before Columbus, dissect their origins with scholarly rigor. Yet it's the sphere's adaptability that fascinates their blank slates for storytellers, equally at home in a detective novel or a UFO conspiracy. Why do these artifacts captivate creators? Their physical perfection invites speculation, their lack of clear purpose a narrative playground. Unlike pyramids or statues which announce their function, the spheres are open-ended, ripe for projecting alien tech, Atlantean relics, or secret codes. Their smooth surfaces reflect our own fantasies back at us, proving that sometimes the greatest stories aren't carved in stone, they're inspired by it. Despite decades of study, some of the stone sphere's most basic mysteries stubbornly resist explanation. Take their burial patterns. Why would a culture invest generations of labor carving perfect orbs only to deliberately inter them? At sites like El Silencio, archaeologists have unearthed spheres placed upright in deep pits, their lower halves submerged as if planted like seeds. One compelling theory suggests these buried spheres anchored sacred spaces, their hidden portions symbolizing roots connecting to the underworld. Yet others appear hastily concealed, raising the possibility they were hidden during conflicts or natural disasters. A particularly puzzling case near Sierp revealed 3 spheres buried in a straight line beneath a later-built mound, their alignment too precise to be accidental, yet their purpose erased by time. The clustering of spheres adds another layer of intrigue. While some stand alone, others gather in groups with mathematical precision. At Grijalba too, 7 spheres form an arc mirroring the Pleiades star cluster during the dry season, a pattern repeated at multiple sites. But not all groupings follow celestial logic. Near Palma Nort, a tight circle of smaller spheres surrounds a central empty space, as if something or someone once occupied the void. Could these have been seats for ritual participants? Or markers for offerings now long vanished? The inconsistency gnaws at researchers. If the clusters served a single purpose, why don't their arrangements follow a clear rule? Perhaps the most tantalizing question lingers beneath the jungle canopy. How many spheres remain undiscovered? LiDAR scans have revealed anomalies under dense vegetation, suggesting dozens may still lie hidden. River erosion periodically unearths new specimens. In 2019, a flash flood near Tarouba exposed a half-buried sphere that local elders insisted hadn't been visible in living memory. Remote areas of the Diquís Delta remain largely unexplored due to challenging terrain and protected ecosystems. Some archaeologists speculate the known spheres might represent only a fraction of the original network, with the largest or most significant still awaiting discovery. The greatest enigma isn't the spheres themselves, but the gaps between them. Each answer, whether about burial customs, celestial alignments, or lost clusters, reveals how much we've yet to learn. These stones refuse to fit neatly into any single theory. their silent surfaces reflecting back our own unanswered questions. Every excavation, every scan peels back another layer, only to find the mystery has grown richer. Keeping these ancient stone spheres safe is no simple task. The very elements that once sheltered them, lush jungles, winding rivers, and rich soil, now pose serious threats. Heavy tropical rains accelerate erosion, especially near riverbanks where many spheres rest. Each storm risks undercutting their foundations, sending centuries-old artifacts tumbling into muddy waters. In Palma Sur, one sphere nearly slid into the Taroba River after a particularly brutal wet season, saved only by a last-minute intervention using sandbags and wooden braces. The jungle itself, while protective, also endangers them. Roots from fast-growing trees can pry apart the stone over decades, leaving hairline fractures invisible until it's too late. Human activity presents even more immediate dangers. Though UNESCO protection has reduced large-scale vandalism, isolated incidents still occur. In 2019, a group of tourists attempted to carve their initials into a sphere at Battambul, leaving shallow but permanent scars. More insidious are the thieves. While full-size spheres are too massive to steal, fragments occasionally disappear, likely sold on the black market as macabre souvenirs. Local guides tell of nighttime operations where looters use diamond-tipped saws to extract palm-sized pieces, leaving behind mutilated stones. Climate change magnifies every threat. Rising temperatures have increased the frequency of extreme weather events, with hurricanes now hitting Costa Rica's Pacific coast, once considered safe from such storms. The heavier rainfalls speed up chemical weathering, particularly on limestone spheres, dissolving their surfaces grain by grain. Meanwhile, prolonged dry seasons cause the soil around buried spheres to contract, destabilizing their positions. Scientists monitoring El Silencio have documented subtle tilting in recent years, likely due to shifting ground moisture levels. Yet against these challenges, grassroots efforts are making real progress. In the Boruca indigenous territory, elders have revived traditional land stewardship practices, planting deep-rooted native vegetation around spheres to anchor the soil. School children in Palma Norte participate in Adopt a Sphere programs, monitoring local artifacts for damage while learning their cultural significance. Archaeologists now train local workers in emergency stabilization techniques, how to build erosion barriers from natural materials or safely relocate spheres when floods approach. Technological innovation plays a key role too. Drones equipped with thermal cameras regularly survey remote sites, spotting disturbances before they become disasters. 3D printing allows exact replicas to be created for study, reducing the need to handle fragile originals. Perhaps most promising is a new biodegradable coating being tested on sphere fragments. A transparent gel that hardens just enough to reinforce weathered surfaces without altering their appearance. The most effective protection comes from shifting perspectives. Where spheres were once viewed as curiosities or obstacles to farmland, they're now recognized as irreplaceable cultural treasures. Coffee farmers near Grijalba too recently rerouted an irrigation project to avoid disturbing a newly discovered cluster despite the added cost. This growing respect suggests a hopeful future, one where these stone enigmas endure not just as relics of the past, but as living witnesses to a changing world's commitment to preserving its mysteries. Standing before the stone spheres today is easier than you might think, if you know where to look. The Finca 6 Museum in Palma Sur serves as the perfect starting point, where 8 meticulously preserved spheres bask in the open air, arranged as they were discovered near ancient house foundations. Unlike sterile museum displays behind glass, these stones sit under the same tropical sun that first unveiled them to banana workers nearly a century ago. The museum's raised walkways let you circle the spheres at eye level, close enough to spot the faintest tool marks but far enough to avoid accidental damage. Early morning visits are ideal. The soft light accentuates every curve, and the cooler temperatures make lingering easier. guides, often from local indigenous communities, share not just archaeological facts but oral traditions passed down through generations, bridging scientific research with living memory. Venturing beyond Finca 6, the El Silencio Ecological Reserve offers a more rugged encounter. Home to the largest known sphere, the towering El Silencio, this site requires a short hike through secondary forest, the hum of howler monkeys and toucans replacing museum placards. Here, the sphere rests exactly where it was found, its base partially submerged in the earth as if still guarding some ancient secret. Visitors are encouraged to sit on nearby benches rather than touch the stone, allowing the jungle's sounds and shadows to amplify the site's solemnity. Local cooperatives lead twilight tours, where the sphere's silhouette against the sunset sparks discussions about how its alignments might have marked solstices for the Diquís people. For those craving deeper context, the National Museum in San Jose dedicates an entire gallery to the spheres, displaying fragments alongside replicas of excavation sites. Interactive screens let you rotate 3D models, comparing the precision of La Perfecta with lesser-known, asymmetrical carvings that reveal the learning process behind these masterpieces. Downstairs, artisans from the Boruca Nation demonstrate traditional stone-working techniques, their chisels connecting past and present through shared craftsmanship. Responsible tourism means more than just looking. It's about leaving these sites as untouched as you found them. Guides emphasize simple acts, refraining from touching the sphere's oils from skin accelerate erosion, staying on marked paths to prevent soil compaction, and silencing drones whose vibrations can destabilize fragile stones. Many tour operators now partner with indigenous communities, ensuring a portion of fees funds local conservation programs. Even purchasing souvenirs mindfully matters. Opt for replicas made by cooperatives like those in Boruca, where profits support cultural education rather than mass-produced trinkets carved from unauthorized molds. The most rewarding visits often come from unexpected detours. In the village of Osa, a community-run cultural center displays a damaged sphere rescued from a nearby construction site, its cracks filled not with epoxy but with stories. Elders here speak of how the sphere was reburied twice during civil unrest to protect it from looters, turning it into a symbol of resilience. Further south, near the Taroba River, a family-run cocoa farm has incorporated sphere replicas into their agroforestry tours, drawing parallels between ancient agricultural knowledge and modern sustainability practices. These lesser-known stops remind us that the spheres aren't frozen relics, they're threads in a living tapestry, still shaping the land and people around them. Timing your visit can turn a simple trip into a privileged glimpse of ongoing discovery. Archaeologists frequently open excavation sites to small groups during dry season field schools, offering front-row seats to history in the making. In 2022, participants at Finca 6 watched as ground-penetrating radar revealed a previously unknown sphere buried near the museum's parking lot, a reminder that even well-studied sites hold surprises. Whether you're crouching beside researchers sifting through soil or simply tracing a sphere's shadow at noon, the key is to approach with patience and wonder. These stones have waited centuries to share their stories. They reward those willing to listen. Centuries after their creation, the stone spheres of Costa Rica still hold us captive, not just as relics of a lost civilization, but as masterclasses in human ingenuity. These silent orbs refuse to surrender all their secrets, and perhaps that's precisely why they fascinate. They stand at the crossroads of art and engineering, their flawless curves a testament to patience so profound it borders on devotion. Think about it, in a world without algorithms or laser guides, artisans transformed raw volcanic rock into shapes so precise they rival modern machinery. Yet for all our technology, we're left guessing at their true purpose. Were they celestial calculators, symbols of power, or sacred objects bridging earth and sky? The absence of a definitive answer isn't a failure of archaeology, it's an invitation. an invitation to marvel at how a culture we barely understand achieved what seems impossible, and to wonder what echoes of their world might still resonate in ours. What lingers most isn't just the mystery of their function, but the sheer audacity of their existence. In an age obsessed with speed and efficiency, these spheres whisper a different value, the beauty of slow craftsmanship. Each one represents countless hours of pecking, grinding, and polishing, a lifetime's work for some anonymous artisan whose name is lost to history. There's humility in that. While our monuments shout with towering spires or glittering facades, the Diquis spoke in perfect spheres, letting geometry do the talking. Their legacy isn't in grand conquests or golden treasures, but in the quiet persistence of stones shaped by human hands. Now it's your turn to weigh in. After this journey through river valleys and laser scans, indigenous legends and alien theories, what do you believe? Could these spheres have been wayfinding markers for ancient travelers, their alignments guiding journeys through dense jungles? Or were they something more intimate, communal projects that bound generations together in shared purpose? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below, because the best part of this mystery is that no idea is too far-fetched. Who knows, maybe the next big clue won't come from a trowel or a satellite image, but from someone watching this very video, connecting dots everyone else missed. One thing's certain, long after our theories fade, these stones will endure. They'll outlast storms and shifting rivers, outwait future civilizations as they've outlasted past ones. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's an open question carved in rock, waiting for the curious to lean in closer. So keep wondering, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the greatest discoveries begin not with answers, but with the courage to stand before something ancient and say, I don't know. Yet the spheres aren't done teaching us. Are we ready